Next up, got Paul in his PJs. Is he in his PJs? Yes, he
I'm
is.
not in my PJs, Graham.
What are they? They look.
This is my work uniform. I put my work uniform on for home, as you can tell.
How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing very well, thank you. This is the best BrewEd I've ever been to because it's the first one I've actually been able to drink at. It's great.
Oh, nice. That's
usually at Preston. I'm having to drive home at the end of the day, but I've been able to get the speckled hen in, and I'm all good here.
Nice. What's this splurge with PJ thing then?
Well, we're splurging with PJ. I'm the PJ. This is where that comes from. The splurging is very much we're going to write a poem live, so I'm going to need people to start sending their comments almost straight away as soon as we get going.
So you created the BrewEd poem, which I shared earlier, yeah?
That's right. Yeah, I thought,
lovely.
It's usually when we do BrewEd Preston, we usually put a poem together for the end of the day, kind of like a plenary at the end of the day. And I figured, well, I'm not going to get to do that because it's going to take all day to do that, and people won't be around at the end of the day. So I thought, well, let's do the poem at the start of the day instead. So I did a wake-up poem for everyone.
Brilliant, Paul. I'll leave you to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you very much. Welcome to this used to be my living room, and this is what happens when you leave a poet who's usually working in schools with primary school children at home. Basically, my living room has turned into pretty much the broom cupboard from 1987 with Philip Schofield. NQTs, you might need to look that one up, but essentially this is what it looked like. What we're going to be doing this afternoon is we're going to be doing something called splurging. Now, I've started a splurge on the whiteboard already. It's essentially a way of getting ideas out of your head, capturing on paper, and then getting kids to work creatively and then tricking them basically into doing things to do with spag that they would usually hate doing. So we're going to take the theme, let's say, for volcanoes today. That's going to be your theme. I need you to get your volcanoes vocabulary in your head and start thinking about all those words that we'd have. Technical words that we might use to start with, also colours and things like that. You've got the time it takes me to say a poem, to think of your words. I'm also going to ask you to think of a higher level question where I want you to think about what a volcano reminds you of. What's the feeling that you think of? What's a volcano like? All right. So all those great metaphors and similes and all the other things that you think of. That's your higher level question. And your lower level questions are the colours of volcanoes, your technical kind of vocab that you learn when you're learning about volcanoes, and the kind of the heat and the kind of other the synonyms for hot. All right. So you've got the time it takes me to do my lockdown poem. Now, my lockdown poem is based on, I've got the performing hat on, obviously. The lockdown poem is to do with one of these because I spent a great deal of my time, like the rest of you, learning about tigers and about why they shouldn't be in houses. Do not keep a tiger in your house. You can have a little pussycat, or maybe you have a dog, a goldfish or a snake perhaps. Perhaps you'd like a frog, a guinea pig, a hamster, a rabbit or a mouse. But please, my friend, do not keep a tiger in your house. But they're so cute, I hear you say, when they are little cubs. We'd wrestle on the carpet and I'd give it tummy rubs. But tigers grow their paws and claws, so friends, don't be a louse. My advice, do not keep a tiger in your house. As tigers live in jungles, not a number 23, they tend to eat quite meaty stuff, and that means you and me. They're powerful, they're beautiful, but come on, use your nous. It's simple, people. Do not keep a tiger in your house. And that means you, Carol Baskin. That means you. All right. So I've been bored during the lockdown. This is what happens to poets, is that they get bored and they write about the stuff that's on the telly. Now, you might want to write about all sorts of things with your classes. And it could be topic work. You might be on a historical poem to do with the Romans. It might be that you are doing something that's a particularly sciencey kind of based stuff. Or it might be that you're looking for some sort of response to a piece of literature you've read in class. Kids are always saying, I don't know where to start. And teachers are always telling me it's really difficult to teach poetry. Well, actually, it's not, because the poetry is already inside the kids' heads and poetry is inside all of us. I've given 3 examples of some of those lower level words that we might insert into a piece of poetry. I've got hot, I've got red, I've got mountain. Now, mountain is that obviously those kind of vocab words that you'd use to do with the actual topic of volcanoes. So I've asked you, hopefully we might have a few of them. Have we got any topic words to do with volcanoes to start with? Brilliant, fantastic. What we got? We've got all lovely pressure. I like that. We might choose about 4 of these and see how we go from there. I've got odour. Fantastic. What a great word to describe the senses of it. Flow. That's a very nice one. That's a very good way of describing lava falling down a mountain. Sulfur. There we go. Somebody getting very. Thank you, science teacher, whoever you are. Sulfur is very nice. Now, can I possibly have, while I'm just writing down this next one, some colours that a volcano might spew out? We've got magma, where somebody gave us there. I think somebody's already. I've already got red, which is fantastic. I've got more words here for. We've got ash and ooze. All right. Can we move on to some colours, kids? I've got a very limited amount of time. Scarlet. There we go. This is more like it. We've got red. We've got scarlet coming out of the mountain. Maybe take my volcano as inspiration at the top here. My beautiful art drawing. Orange. Lovely. Thank you very much for choosing the one word that poets never want to use because it doesn't rhyme with anything. Amber, very nice. This is so much better doing it with the way kids. You're not going, think of another word that means orange. Amber, very good. What else? We've got crimson, very good. That's lovely. Just to finish off, while we're finishing off the colours, now I want you to think of all those synonyms that you might have to do with hot. All right, it's not just hot, and we know it's not really hot, and we know it's definitely not really, really hot because we're trying to get away from that as much as we possibly can. So we want other synonyms to do with hot if you can. Right, we've got any more of those colours? I think somebody said yellow. I saw up on the board there just a second ago. Brilliant. We've got yellow. Right, so we've got hot. It's not hot, it's molten. That's what it is. Very good. And we've got it's scorching. Scorchio. Very nice. Scorching. Very good. We've got there. Very hot. Yes, very hot is banned. You're out of there. I don't know who that is. All right, I will find you. I'll look in the comments later. But blistering, I think it is. Blistering. Very nice. And there's one at the top which I haven't got. What was that one? Steaming. There we go. Very nice. Right. I'm going to call it a day. That's not to say that any of your ideas that you're giving me are bad ideas. There are no such thing as bad ideas, kids. We know this. In fact, we're not going to use all of these ideas in our poem. It's almost impossible. We say this to children to try and get down everything out of your head as much as possible, but you're never going to use every idea in a piece of poetry. If we used every idea that we ever had, we'd be here all day. We choose our words when we're talking. We have to choose our words when we're writing. And likewise, once we finish writing, that's when we choose again, when we edit down, when we slim it down to make it the very best we possibly can. Right? So those word choices are something that come out all the time when you're splurging, because this is a representation of everything that might be going on in a child's head. When you say the topic of volcanoes, right, we've given them these very, that's the things that spark in their heads: the sulfur, the scorching, the soothing, the red, the scarlet, the flow, the hot, the pressure, all of the rest of it. It all goes off at once. But the next level of that, where we take it to a poetic level, is when we get that higher level question. And we start to think, okay, so how then, right, what does it make us think of when I think of a volcano? What's a volcano like? All right. So when you're thinking about that, right, one of the things that immediately come back from kids that I've done when we've particularly done this topic of volcanoes is they've said it's like a monster. I'm going to switch pen because I think the black one's moving running out on me. Okay. It's like a monster. Okay. So we've gone with that. We've got any other words that you might think of that a volcano is like, something you might compare it to? It might be a simile. It might be a metaphor. It might be a way of just looking at it. Like a dragon. That's a fantastic idea. Like it's breathing out of the earth. Very nice. We've got our dragon in there. Excellent. Any more? Very nice. Okay, we've got one more coming through. We only need a few of these, which is great. An explosion, like it was a bomb going off, like the earth was exploding. Fantastic. Okay. Now, what we can do, we've got another. Oh, like an angry beast. Angry beast. Very nice. I'm going to call that a day. And you can see that this is a little bit higgledy-piggledy, just like a child's brain. I often say that kids think sideways, all right? They don't always think in straight lines. Sometimes their brains think in all sorts of different directions. So our job as writers is to guide them and say, well, you know what? What can we do to help make this a little bit more like a piece of poetry? So I might take that word. I think the word giant came out just a minute ago on the board. I'm going to put that there. Okay. A giant angry steaming beast. There we go. A giant angry steaming beast. Oops. Apologies for the writing. I'm writing quick. I've got 8 minutes. And we could then take it from there. And as you see, as we're going through the splurging, I encourage the kids to basically tick off what they've been doing. So circle the ones you've used. I know I'm not going to go back to that. As much as repetition is sometimes useful in a piece of poetry, generally when we're being creative, we don't want them saying and the same thing over again. So we've got our giant, angry, steaming beast with a scorching sulphur flow. That's what it is. With a scorching sulphur flow. There we go. Odor oozing. Odor oozing. Magma. Let's put it as falling. It was a bliss. Magma. Monstrous. Odor oozing. Monstrous magma. There we go. Monstrous magma. And now we haven't used our dragon up to now. Scarlet. Let's go with our scarlet. Scarlet, 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 scarlet. Scarlet. Dragons. And it's at this point I'm starting to finish my poem, and I'm looking for a rhyme with flow, because if we listen to the way that it's come out at the moment, a giant angry steaming beast with a scorching sulphur flow, odor oozing, monstrous magna, scarlet dragons, boom. Now I've only got yellow, and yellow doesn't really seem to scan very much because it's kind of scarlet dragons, yellow, and also it doesn't really think. So maybe I might go back to my splurge at this point and say, okay, kids at home, give me all of the different words that rhyme with flow. So I've got yellow. That's possibly on the list. I might be able to resculpt my sentence a little bit. I think somebody said, right, I've got go, no, and no. Here we go. So we've got no, as in I know. Okay. So what about if we have scarlet dragons no? Right? And then give it a nice little bit of ellipsis at the end there. Kind of wave it off into the distance. Or even, I've got an option of Starlit Dragons Glow or Starlit Dragons Go. Right? 3 very different endings to our poem. Right? Let's just run through the poem to start with. We've got a giant, angry, steaming beast with a scorching sulphur flow. Odor oozing, monstrous magna, scarlet dragons. No. Very much a kind of ponderous one. To finish it, we might have Scarlet Dragons Glow. Okay, so now we've kind of gone into the kind of mystical fantasy idea. Or Scarlet Dragons Go! It's a superhero team. All right, that's the way that we can just change one word and simply reverse a sentence. It's up to you what you finish with. I'm going to keep all 3 of them for the time being because I quite like them. What you can then do is you can then go back. What I didn't do is start this session and say, okay, what we're going to do today, kids, is we're going to write a poem and we're going to make sure we include some alliteration in it. We're going to make sure we include as many metaphors and similes as we possibly can. I'm going to make sure that you use as many synonyms as possible. And I'm going to make sure that we use some expanded noun phrases. If I'd have done that when we started, the kids would have switched off within seconds. The moment that we do it this way and we say, let's just raid our brains. Let's just go on a raiding mission and go, I want that, I want that, I want that. Tell me what's coming out of your head and we'll capture it on a piece of paper. Then what we can start to do is we go, well, hold on, a giant, angry, steaming beast. We've got a whole sentence there that starts us off. It's got a massive metaphor in it. And of course, we've started to use expanded noun phrasing as well because we're using all these adjectives and bringing them together with a scorching sulphur flow. Oh, scorching sulphur flow. It just so happens that I picked out 2 words that are alliterative. And now we're starting to use alliteration in our poem. Odor oozing, monstrous magma. It's become a list poem all of a sudden. Scarlet dragons know and glow and go. We might use completely different ways of finishing this poem. There are so many different ways that you can bring in all of that spag work into your poetry work and get kids free writing, right? I didn't, again, start, you'll notice I didn't say we're going to write a limerick. I didn't say we're going to do a kenning or we're going to do any other kind of, sort of literature. We're not going to write a sonnet, for example, right? Free writing for kids is a really important thing, right? Because it gives them the option to rhyme if they want to. They might have had an A-B rhyme. They might have just chosen to rhyme on the second line. They might have chosen no rhyme at all. That way, the kids start to get the creative flow out of their work. And hopefully that will be of some use to you back in your classrooms. It's also really useful for you if you just happen to be wanting to write something as well. The amount of times I've been commissioned to write something that I don't know anything about, and I've had to go to it, watch it, and say, right, I'm just going to write down all the words that I pick up from this person on the way. I was asked by a school to write a poem about Minecraft once. I've never played Minecraft in my life, so I had to go and help with the kids telling me the words so that I could watch the game and then work out what was going on. And I learned that way because we're all constantly learning. Hopefully that's been of some use to you this afternoon. If you want to follow me, it's at TeacherWriterPJ over on Twitter. You'll notice all this business. We have a daily poetry show as well. Essentially, I'm sharing kids' poems all the way through the lockdown. So if they've got any poems whatsoever, if they send them to pauljenkinspoet@gmail.com, and we share them on a daily basis over on my Facebook page. Please message me, follow me, and find out about all of that, because we're trying to make sure that we get as many poems as possible. With the idea is at the end of the lockdown, because we know we'll be out of lockdown before the care homes, we're going to package those together as a collection, and we're going to send them off to some local care homes and hopefully some national care homes as well, to be able to sort of alleviate the stress there as well. Hopefully that all makes sense, and I think Graham should be still in the room. Is Graham still in the room?
Here I am.
There. I'm glad of that. I have no idea.
Magic that. Paul, thank you so much. That's amazing. Such brilliant ideas. And I love one of the things that's come out of this whole situation is the willingness of people to share their resources and things. So thank you again for doing that. I didn't know you were doing that. I do now. I will definitely look for it. I think it's just there's been such a good reaction by people on the side as well, though. I've got this idea that I've put up from Rachel Teetsan about you could do it as a Padlet live from home, splurging words and things.
We did it at a teaching conference at League Learn Lancs a couple of years ago. I wasn't at the conference. I was up in Loch Ness.
Yeah.
And they all wrote their words on the Padlet, and I wrote the poem from Loch Ness and then did a YouTube video back to them so they could show it in the afternoon. So you can do this remotely as well. It's a great way. And there's I used Slido, I think it's Slido yesterday on a training thing, and that we created a word cloud in seconds. And then you can take that to be able to create a poem from as well. There's loads of ways to sort of collect in vocab really quick.
No, brilliant, Paul. Thank you so much for that this afternoon. I think it's inspired quite a lot of people there, not just primary, but there's secondary teachers as well saying, this is just a fantastic thing. So thank you very, very much, sir.
Well, that's my old stomping ground. So, I used to be head of drama in a secondary. So, yes. And we, hey, look, when we're all back to normal again, I'll come and visit any of you if you want.
When we're all back to normal again.
One day in the future.
Thank you so much again, sir. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Same to you. And thank you for the dance moves at lunchtime. They were cracking.
No worries. I've before I carry on, we've got a video up next, which is let me see where I am.